Hallo und willkommen. Ich bin Meister Lenz and you're watching Get Germanized. Your surprises when coming to Germany for the first time or weird, well, culture shocks.
I am bored. What should I do?
Ich weiß.
Get Germanized.
You have told me on Instagram via the questions feature what your weirdest and most strange and maybe best experiences were when you first came to Germany. And if you want to participate in another episode like this or in another format, then follow me on Instagram. Instagram is Meister Lenz here. And well, keep an eye out for these questions that I ask you. But I'd say we'll just get started right away. Lasst uns anfangen. Customer service rudeness. Well, I believe it is the case in Germany that many people working at stores don't necessarily think it's in their job description also to help the customer without being asked, right? If well, someone enters the shop, for example, supermarket or something like that, you will not be approached by people randomly that work there. Only if you have a question, they will answer you. And some might not even know the answer to your question because they might have been hired for keeping stock, you know, just counting the wares and stuff like that. And they don't really know much about where stuff is all the time. I don't know, maybe a bad example here, but you know what I mean. Not everyone knows everything, and they will probably tell you like, I don't know. If you enter a shop and you expect someone to be like your servant all the time and give you advice on what to wear and here. I mean, many do that, especially if you go into like a fancier store. They will automatically approach you, but oftentimes it's not the case. So don't expect it necessarily here in Germany. Next up, they are helping the foreigners a lot, despite what I've heard before. I mean, yeah, there is a stereotype that Germans don't like foreigners. That's complete BS. We try to be helpful and friendly as much as we can. As long as you are being friendly to us, we don't have any reason to not be friendly to you in return. So just keep that in mind. We might not look super friendly all the time because, you know, no one will just run around like this all the time. I've mentioned this before. We will probably look more like this, stern expression, but if you approach us in a friendly manner, then we might, you know, oh yeah, the store is over there. If you go down the street and then, you know, turn right, yeah, like that. That will most likely happen if you approach someone on the street. And I don't know why many people believe that Germans are not friendly necessarily. Age-old stereotypes from the war, I guess. But that's just not true anymore. Next up, having lived in Boston, thought taking the subway would be cool, but it's a bit more complicated. In Germany, the subway, well, depends on which city you're talking about. This I don't know, so, well, I mean, in Berlin, I think it's pretty straightforward. There's like the Ringbahn that goes around the whole city in two different directions all the time. So you basically take that and get anywhere you want in the city. But for example, I mean, this isn't in Germany, but London, that is confusing to me for sure. I mean, not as confusing anymore as it was once, but definitely still confusing. But yeah, I mean, I can see how it is intimidating at first if it's more complicated. But I believe there's a system behind all of them, so try to recognize that, and I don't think you will be stuck for very long. Next up, I'm surprised by the great gestures of Germans, like saying hello to everyone, even strangers. That is only the case, I believe, in villages. That won't happen necessarily in cities. If you approach someone randomly in a city and just say hello, then they look at you weird mostly. Maybe don't even say anything back because it's just not common there. From what I have experienced, at least, in Berlin and Munich, and maybe more in Munich, but definitely not Berlin, or even Bremen. I think people would think like, what? Or Hamburg, I don't know how common it is there, but more likely to be found in smaller villages or cities. Next up, I didn't care for German beer that much. I prefer craft beers like a coffee porter much better. A coffee porter? That sounds really good actually. I haven't tried that, but do you know that Germany does have a lot of craft beers as well, so you might want to check out those. The standard German beer brands like, I don't know, I don't want to name any names here, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm not too much of a fan of either. But yeah, there's really nice craft beers out there, and yeah, beer's not for everyone anyway, so. And personally, I try to cut down a little bit on alcohol at the moment anyway. So yeah, and nothing wrong with that if you don't like the beers. Next up, Pfand. I think it's called what you do when you turn in the bottles. Not really an issue, but something interesting. Yeah, the Pfand money, the money you get back from the machine in form of like a receipt for the store you gave them back at. When you hand in the empty bottles, you get that receipt, and you can like present it at the register, and then you get that money deducted off your total price for your shoppings. That's how it works mostly, right? So yeah, I believe that is interesting to people who come from a country where that is just not normal at all, the norm, so to speak. So I get it. But yeah, it's a good thing, I believe. So people have an incentive to bring back the bottles and don't just throw them away, you know. Next up, Döner kebab, so good, bigger than my face, and only 3.50 euros in Berlin. Yeah, it's around 3.50 euros most of the time in many places, I believe. And I agree with you, it's delicious. Not necessarily the healthiest food, but also not the unhealthiest. It's fast food, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of carbs in there, a lot of fat, and yeah. I don't know. I like it though, it's really good. Next up, friendly people. Yeah, I don't know why people don't expect friendly people in Germany. Unbelievable. Next up, how excited people were when I was trying my best to speak German. Yeah, I said this many times. We appreciate it if a foreigner really tries to speak our language, you know, because we can always switch to English. That is no problem, but we just appreciate it. Yeah. Next up, the men. I thought they were more good looking. No offense, just personal taste. Yeah, no offense taken, that's completely fine. Well, to be honest, the German man is highly misrepresented most of the time. Many people think Germany is just full of Nordic-looking, blue-eyed blonde guys, chiseled faces, six-pack abs, and like, you know, just athletes or Greek gods or something like that. That's just bullshit. No country is like that. There's so many average-looking and normal people, like myself, for example, and it's just yeah, not the case. I don't know where that representation comes from. I mean, maybe the war still, like the Aryan race, and people hope that people still look like that, or I don't know. Yeah, no. It's just wrong. Next up, Sundays. In the US, I always did all my shopping that day. Not so much here. Yeah, no, the Sunday apocalypse prevents you from doing that for sure, because on Sunday, most of the stores will be closed, with the exception of like corner stores and gas stations. Or petrol stations, whatever you prefer. And I get how that can be weird to some people if you're used to being able to shop on any day of the week. But here in Germany, it's just not the case, so get used to it. Next up, Berlin was much bigger than I thought it was going to be. Well, Berlin is a metropolis, so a super huge city. Get ready if you want to visit Berlin. Get ready. Next up, surprise, how many posters of Angela Merkel there actually are. This was in Hannover last year. Well, I mean, during election periods and stuff like that, there's a lot of those posters of all different kinds of politicians out there. It's not like all year round that we have so many or super many posters of our politicians out there. That would be weird. Next up, I could not stop drinking the beer in Munich. It wasn't a problem though. Well, that's good to hear if you enjoyed our beer. That's nice. Just, you know, be careful not to overconsume on alcohol because it's really bad for you. Next up, I had to pay to go to the bathroom. Yeah, that can be an issue if you come to the country for the first time and don't know about this. Our public bathrooms, right? You have to pay like 50 cents to €1 for to get in, but they're always super clean, maintained very well. So the person that cleans them actually gets paid, I think, at least partially from that money. So I think it's a good thing. Other countries might have free public bathrooms, but they're filthy. I've heard that from you guys many times. So I prefer paying a little bit and having a clean, sterile bathroom. Next up, right now I live in Kiel, but it's supposed to be a city, but it's so small. I hate this city, there's nothing to do. Yeah, that could be a problem if you, for example, come from a major city and there's just everything, you know, available all the time. And then you go to Germany, to a small city or even a village, and there's just nothing to do, or very rarely something to do, or you will have to drive an hour to get somewhere where it's interesting, like where I live. It's very rural. If you enjoy nature, it's perfect. But if you want to, you know, go to a party, or if you want to go clubbing, or to a bar even, or cafe, it just doesn't exist here very much, at least not very trendy ones or for young people. So I get why that could be frustrating for some. I don't care as much, but yeah, I see your point. Next up, first time in Germany playing the Guess Who game with a card on your head. Mine said Hitler. That's unfortunate, or really funny, if your German friends thought that was a good thing to do. Well, I mean, risky putting that on your head for the first time in the country, but kind of funny too. Next up, surprise was tasty wine. Everyone knows German beer, but wine also deserves appreciation, I think. Yeah, I mean, I actually go to a Weinanbaugebiet, so a wine area of Germany soon, at the end of April it was, to the Pfalz area of Germany, where there's delicious wines, and Germany has a lot of them. So yeah, definitely don't underestimate our wine. That's it with today's episode of, well, your biggest culture shocks / surprises / experiences during your first time in Germany. And if you want to join in the next episode, well, you know what to do. Add me on Instagram, Meisterlenze, and wait for the questions that I ask you on there. And follow me on my other social media, all linked in the video description. Consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button next to the subscription button. And if you haven't subscribed and clicked the notification bell, you know that you have to do that at some point, right? Anyway, and apart from that, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to get Germanized. Goodbye and auf Wiedersehen.